What's going on, everyone? It's Mike from Infinite Insights again, and I'm glad to have you guys back here for another video. So, it's been about a week since I last put a video out there. I've been kind of busy with other projects and other work, but I'm back at it again today, and I wanted to talk briefly about friends and friend groups, right? So, the main point I wanted to make today is that you don't really need a lot of friends. You don't really need a huge group of people that you're always hanging out with. You really only need maybe 5 to 10 really close friends. And even 5 to 10 is probably a little bit too much. Ideally, you probably want to have like five or less really close friends, right? That you're hanging out with on like a normal basis. I would say 5 to 10 is kind of like the higher range. But and when I say friends, I'm not talking about people on social media that you're friendly with, people at work that you're friendly with, people that you interact with and that you're like acquaintances with. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about like consistent friends that you see on a consistent basis, that you hang out with often, that you see regularly, that you're texting regularly, right? And the reason why I say this is because the more friends that you have, the more distractions you're going to have. And I know it sounds maybe kind of rude or obnoxious to say that, if you have a lot of friends, that it's a distraction. So I'm basically saying that friends are a distraction. And, in a way, they kind of are. You know, when we're talking about personal development and we're talking about growing yourself, becoming the best version of yourself, developing skills, developing your mind, your psychology, physically, like your health, right? Advancing yourself in all these ways. It's a very personal journey. And the bottom line is that you're going to need a lot of alone time. And you can get assistance from your friends. Like you can get advice from your friends. They can help you to learn some skills. They can help you along your journey to a certain extent, but most of the battle is fought on your own. The greatest accomplishments are achieved on your own, right? This is an inner battle. This isn't an outer battle, right? Or not really a battle, but a journey. This is an inner journey, not really an outer journey. So, to some extent, friends can help you, right? But that's why you want to have a close, intimate group of friends that you see every so often. Because the more time you're hanging out with friends and the bigger your friend group is, the thinner that you're spreading yourself, right? You have to, every time you hang out with someone, every time you spend time with someone, you're expending energy. You're expending energy on the conversation, on the activity, right? You're expending mental energy. You're expending physical energy. And again, I know this might sound like selfish. This might sound like, oh, well, you're just going to be like a loner. You're just going to be like a hermit by yourself. And no, that's not what I'm saying. It's just that I see people, especially nowadays with social media and the internet in general, I see people trying to, you know, have a large following, or trying to have all these people that they interact with and that they spend time with and they get to know, right? And it just comes down to, how are you spending your energy, right? So the argument here is that you don't want to spend all of your energy, out trying to fit in with the crowd, trying to relate with all these different people. And it's not a bad thing. It just comes down to efficiency. It just comes down to, how much do you actually want to grow as a person? Because many times when we're hanging out with these people, and especially people that we're not really close with, we have to get to know them. We have to learn about them. We have to tell our story. We have to give them our information, right? And it just, not only is it energy, but it's also time, right? And this is time that could be spent working on your business, working on your career, working on your mind, working on your writing, your reading, your art, right? If you're a musician, your music, what you're passionate about, right? And another thing is that when you have a very close group of friends, you can concentrate that energy, and you can be more efficient with that energy, so that your close friends are actually getting the most out of you, right? You're not spreading yourself thin through, 10, 15, 20, over 20 different friends that you got to keep up with. When you just have, a tight group of friends, you're not spreading yourself so thin. I know I keep saying that, but that's kind of the main point that I'm trying to make, is that you have to be smart with your energy and your time, especially when you're developing yourself and you're doing self-improvement and self-help. That's just, it's just kind of common sense. And I know that many of you watching this might know this already, but I think it helps just to reiterate these topics, so that you don't forget and you don't fall back into your old patterns, right? And again, I'm not talking about people that you're friendly with, or that you're, closely acquainted with, that you see, once a year, right? I'm talking about people that you're constantly talking to, constantly texting, constantly calling, constantly hanging out with, going out on the weekends with, right? And this goes for the opposite sex too. You don't want to engage so heavily with the opposite sex, because yes, it's a different dynamic because it's the opposite sex, but it's still energy that you're expending. And it's still energy that you could be using on yourself. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying to be totally selfish and just become a hermit. I mean, you could do that if you really wanted to, but I don't really recommend it. Just going from normal life to just being a complete hermit. I don't recommend that transition. But again, with self-development and becoming your greatest version, you need to kind of be selfish sometimes. You need to learn how to say no. You need to learn how to distribute and designate your time, in a smart way, right? So that's why in this video I'm talking about, not having too many friends, right? And another thing that I wanted to say is that when it comes to your friend group, the reason why you want to have a small group of friends too is because when you know them very intimately and you're using your energy efficiently, and you're not spreading yourself thin, and you kind of, their backstory, their careers, almost everything about them, then it can be kind of like a reciprocal effect where you're helping them, and because you're helping them and you know them so intimately, they want to help you, and they know you so intimately, so they can give you tips, they can give you tricks, they can give you advice. And you're also not dealing with people that have different interests than you, right? Because when you have a lot of friends, I can't believe it took me so long to say this, but when you have a lot of friends, their interests can be completely different, and you're constantly trying to fit in with those peripheral people, right? But when it's a close group of friends, your values are most likely very similar. You might differ on a handful of things, one or two things, but for the most part, you're focused on very similar aspects. And the aspects that are different can actually help you and help them to grow even further. So that's a huge benefit of having an intimate, small, close-knit group of friends. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in this video. Just remember that you don't have to have a very small group of friends. You can have as many friends as you want. But always remember that when you're talking about self-improvement, when you're talking about personal development and growing yourself to the highest possible levels, it's about energy. It's about expending energy and time. It's about expending time. So it just comes down to efficiency. If you have so many friends, you're only going to be able to be so efficient with your personal time, right? You have to balance this. And in my opinion, if you're serious about growing yourself, you really want to have at the very least, a 75-25 split, where 75% of the time you're focusing on yourself. And at the most, really, you're spending 25% of your time with your close group of friends. That's just my opinion, but I think if you're serious about life, if you're serious about growing yourself, I think that's probably the bare minimum, is 75% of your time and effort should be spent on yourself. Ideally even more. Ideally like in the 80s and the 90s. But as a start, I would say 75-25 split. So I know I kind of rambled in this video and I may have gone a little bit off topic, and I also may have repeated myself multiple times, but don't let that distract you from the fact that this is an important topic. I do see people who try to have the most amount of friends, try to, relate to everybody, and then they just spread themselves too thin, and then they wonder why their lives aren't getting any better, right? And that's because you're not focusing yourself on you, right? Or at least not enough. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit the like button. Comment down below if you have any questions, comments, concerns, any ideas for future videos, stuff like that. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos, and stay tuned for more. I got a lot coming for you guys. See ya.